Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss the new stories we share. Let's begin. The heat was already brutal at 7 in the morning. I remember that detail clearly because I had been driving for 2 hours through nothing but mesquite and dust, and the temperature gauge on my old Chevy was climbing toward the red zone, the kind of heat that makes you question every decision that brought you to a lonely stretch of Highway 90 in West Texas. I was heading back to the ranch after picking up antibiotics for a sick calf in Marfa. 43 years I had worked that land. 43 years of sunrises and heartbreaks and the kind of silence that either heals you or drives you mad. That morning, I thought I knew everything about my life. I thought the past was buried deep enough to stay buried. I was wrong. She appeared like a mirage at first, a figure shimmering in the distance, standing on the shoulder of the road where the pavement crumbled into caliche and scrub brush. I squinted through the dusty windshield and slowed the truck. A girl, teenage, alone. My foot found the brake before my mind caught up. Out here you do not see people walking. There is nothing to walk to. The nearest town was 50 miles in either direction, and the land between was unforgiving enough to kill you if you did not respect it. She did not wave me down. She did not even look up as I pulled onto the shoulder and killed the engine. She just stood there, arms wrapped around herself despite the heat, staring at the ground like she was waiting for it to swallow her whole. Hey there. I stepped out of the truck, keeping my voice gentle. You all right? Nothing, not even a flinch. I walked closer, my boots crunching on the gravel. She was younger than I had thought at first. Maybe 15 or 16. Dark hair tangled and matted with dust. Wearing a thin cotton dress that looked like something from a thrift store, the hem torn and dragging in the dirt. No shoes. That was what made my chest tighten. No shoes, and the road was hot enough to fry an egg. Miss, can you hear me? She looked up then, and I stopped walking. Her eyes were the color of honey, golden brown with flecks of amber that caught the morning light. There was something in those eyes I recognized immediately because I had seen it in my own reflection for years after the accident. Trauma, deep and fresh and bleeding invisible wounds. He left me here. Her voice cracked like dry earth. He just left me. I felt my hands curl into fists at my sides. Who left you? She shook her head and swayed on her feet. That was when I noticed the bruise on her cheekbone, purple and swollen, the marks on her wrists, the way she was cradling her left arm against her ribs. Okay. I held up my hand slowly, showing her I meant no harm. We are going to figure this out, but first we need to get you out of this heat. Can you walk to my truck? She did not answer. She just looked at me with those wounded eyes, and something inside me cracked open. I had spent 43 years running from the past, from the ghosts that haunted that ranch, from the mistakes I had made as a younger man. But standing there on that empty road, I felt something shift. A sense that this was not random, that whatever force governs this universe had placed this broken girl in my path for a reason. She took one step toward me, then another, and that was when I saw it, clutched in her right hand, crumpled and stained with something that looked like dried blood, a document, yellow with age, the edges worn, soft from handling. What is that? I asked. She looked down at the paper in her hand as if she had forgotten she was holding it. It is all I have left of my mother. Her voice broke on the last word. I helped her into the truck, moving slowly, telegraphing every movement so I would not spook her. She flinched when I reached for the seatbelt but let me click it into place. Up close, she smelled like sweat and fear and something else. Blood, maybe, or just the coppery tang of exhaustion. My name is Thomas. I started the engine and cranked the air conditioning as high as it would go. Thomas Brennan. I have a ranch about 30 miles from here. We are going to get you some water and food and figure out who we need to call. She did not respond, just stared straight ahead through the windshield, her fingers still wrapped around that crumpled document. I pulled back onto the highway, watching her from the corner of my eye. The bruises were worse than I had initially thought. Someone had hurt this girl badly, recently. What is your name? I asked softly. A long pause, the truck hummed over the pavement. Elena. That is a beautiful name. Nothing. I drove in silence for a while, letting her settle. The ranch appeared on the horizon after 20 minutes. The old wooden fence posts marking the boundary of the only home I had ever known. 3,000 acres of cattle land that had been in my family for 4 generations. 4 generations of secrets. 4 generations of silence. I parked in front of the main house, a weathered adobe structure with a tin roof that had survived 2 tornadoes and more heartbreak than I could count. My housekeeper, Rosa, appeared on the porch before I had even cut the engine. Dios mío. She came down the steps with her hands already reaching for the girl. What happened? Who is this child? I found her on 90. Get some water and the first aid kit. She is hurt. Rosa took charge like she always did, guiding Elena into the house with gentle hands and a stream of soft Spanish that seemed to calm the girl more than anything I had said. I followed them inside, stopping in the doorway of the kitchen to watch Rosa work. She cleaned the wounds on Alina's arms. She iced the bruise on her cheek. She gave her water and made her drink slowly. Through it all, Alina never let go of that document. "We need to call the sheriff," Rosa said, catching my eye. "Someone did this to her." "I know." I pulled out my phone, then hesitated. Something was nagging at me, something I could not identify. "Alina, who hurt you, who left you on that road?" She looked up at me, and I saw the fear flash across her face. "My stepfather." The word came out like a curse. "He found out about the paper. He said I was trying to ruin him. He drove me out to the desert and told me I could die out there for all he cared." My blood ran cold. I knew that particular breed of cruelty, the kind that wears a respectable face in public and becomes a monster behind closed doors. "What paper?" I asked. "What does it say?" Alina looked down at the crumpled document in her hands. For a long moment, I thought she would not answer, then slowly she unfolded it. "My mother died 3 months ago, cancer." Her voice was barely a whisper. "She gave me this before she passed. She said it would help me find my real father." My heart stuttered in my chest. "Can I see it?" She held it out to me, and I took it with hands that had started to tremble. The paper was old, decades old, yellowed and fragile. It was a birth certificate, I realized, state of Texas, dated 17 years ago. I read the name of the mother first. Angela Marie Vasquez. Floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. And then I read the name listed under father, Thomas James Brennan. The document fell from my hands. I heard it hit the floor, but I could not move to pick it up. I could not move at all. My legs had turned to stone, and my heart was hammering so loud I was certain Alina could hear it. Angela, my Angela. The memories crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under. I was 25 again, working the ranch for my father, meeting a girl with dark hair and honey-colored eyes at a dance in Marfa. Angela Vasquez, beautiful, bright, full of a fire that made me feel alive for the first time in my life. We had 3 months together. 3 months of stolen moments in the barn, of driving out to look at the stars, of planning a future that seemed impossible and inevitable all at once. Then my father found out. I could still hear his voice, cold and hard as the desert in winter. "Brennans do not marry Vasquez girls. End it now, or I will cut you off from everything. This land, this family, everything." I was young. I was scared. I was stupid. I ended it. Angela left town 2 weeks later. I heard through the grapevine that she had moved to El Paso, that she had gotten married, that she had a daughter. I told myself it was better this way. I told myself she was happy. I told myself to forget. But I never forgot, not really. She had been the first woman I ever loved, and losing her had carved a hole in my chest that never quite healed. Now her daughter was sitting in my kitchen, looking at me with her mother's eyes. "Mr. Brennan," Alina's voice pulled me back to the present. "Are you okay?" I forced myself to breathe, in, out, in again. "Alina." I bent down and picked up the birth certificate with shaking hands. "Did your mother ever tell you about me?" She nodded slowly. "She told me stories about a rancher who loved her, who let her go because his family thought she was not good enough." The words hit like a punch to the gut. "She said you broke her heart." Alina's voice was not accusatory, just sad, just honest. "But she also said you were a good man who was just too young to stand up for what you wanted." I sank into the chair across from her, my legs no longer able to support my weight. 43 years. 43 years I had lived with the guilt of that choice, and I never knew. "Did she know?" I asked. "When she left town, did she know she was pregnant?" "No." Alina shook her head. "She found out a month later. By then, she was already married to my stepfather. He thought I was his. She never told him the truth until right before she died." I understood then. The whole terrible picture came into focus. Angela, pregnant and married to another man, keeping the secret to protect her daughter, to protect her marriage, to protect me from a truth that would have destroyed everything. And now she was gone. The woman I had loved and lost was gone, and I had never gotten the chance to tell her I was sorry. "That is why he left you on the road," I said, the realization settling into my bones. "Your stepfather, he found out you were not his." Alina nodded. Tears were streaming down her face now. "He called me a bastard." The word came out broken. "He said I was nothing, that I was worth less than the dirt on his boots." Something ancient and protective roared to life inside my chest. This was my daughter, my blood, and someone had thrown her away like garbage. I reached across the table and took her hand. He was wrong. My voice was steady despite the earthquake inside me. "You are not nothing, you are mine." The next few hours passed in a blur of phone calls and paperwork. I called the sheriff and filed a report against Alina's stepfather. I called my lawyer and started the process of establishing paternity. I called the doctor in town and had him come out to examine Alina properly. 3 cracked ribs, dehydration, malnutrition, the evidence of prolonged neglect. With every new revelation, my rage grew. But underneath the rage was something else, something I had not felt in decades: hope. Alina slept for most of the afternoon, exhausted from her ordeal. I sat in the chair beside her bed, watching her breathe, tracing the familiar lines of her face. She looked so much like Angela, the same curve of her cheekbones, the same stubborn set of her jaw. But there were pieces of me there too, the shape of her ears, the way her brow furrowed when she dreamed. I had a daughter. The thought kept circling through my mind, impossible and true. All those years of loneliness, of rattling around this big empty house with nothing but cattle and ghosts for company. All those years of wondering what my life might have been like if I had been brave enough to stand up to my father. And now here she was, a second chance I did not deserve. Rosa found me still sitting there when the sun started to set. "You should eat something." She handed me a plate of tamales. "You are no good to anyone if you collapse." I took the plate but did not eat. My appetite had disappeared along with my certainties. "Rosa, did you know about Angela?" She was quiet for a long moment, then she sighed. "I knew she was pregnant when she left. She told me because she needed someone to know." Rosa sat down on the edge of the bed. "She made me promise never to tell you. She said you had made your choice and she was not going to force you into anything." I felt the tears prick at my eyes. Angela had always been stronger than me, braver, better. I should have fought for her. The words came out rough with regret. I should have told my father to go to hell. You were young. Rosa put her hand on my shoulder. "We all make mistakes when we are young. The question is what you do now." I looked at Alina's sleeping face, at my daughter, at this gift I had been given when I thought I had nothing left to live for. I am going to do right by her. I said it like a vow, whatever it takes. Alina stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked confused for a moment, disoriented by unfamiliar surroundings. Then her gaze landed on me and something in her expression softened. "You stayed." Her voice was hoarse from sleep. "I am not going anywhere." She was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she asked the question I had been dreading. "What happens now? I have nowhere to go. Everything I owned was at that house, and he will never let me back." I did not hesitate. The answer was as clear as the sunrise over the ranch. "You have somewhere to go." I took her hand again. "This is your home now. This land, this house. It belonged to your grandmother and your great-grandmother before that. It is your birthright, Alina, and I am not letting anyone take that away from you." 3 weeks later, Alina and I stood on the front porch watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and crimson. Her bruises had faded. She had gained weight from Rosa's cooking. And slowly, carefully, she was starting to smile. Her stepfather had been arrested on charges of child abandonment and assault. The DNA test had confirmed what the birth certificate declared. Alina Marie Brennan was my daughter, but the paperwork was just paperwork. The real work was happening in quiet moments like this one, in conversations over breakfast about her dreams and fears, in teaching her to ride the horses that grazed in the south pasture, in showing her the land that would one day be hers. "Tell me about her again." Alina pulled her jacket tighter against the evening chill. "Tell me about my mother." I smiled, the ache in my chest familiar now, a good kind of ache. She was fearless. The first time I took her riding, she insisted on the wildest horse in the stable, took off across the plains like she was born to fly. I paused, remembering. She used to say that life was too short to be scared of the things that might make you happy. She told me that too. Alina's voice was soft. Right before she died, she said I should find you, that even though you let her go, you were the kind of man who would never turn away someone who needed him. The tears came then. I did not fight them. Angela had known me better than I knew myself. Even after everything, after the heartbreak and the decades of silence, she had believed in me enough to send her daughter to my door, our daughter. "I wish I had been there," I said. "For both of you, I wish I had been the man she deserved." Alina reached over and took my hand. Her grip was strong and sure. "You are here now. That is what matters." I squeezed her hand and looked out at the land that had held my family for 4 generations. The land that would hold us now, father and daughter, building something new on the foundation of old mistakes. "Alina, I want you to know something." I turned to face her fully. "I cannot give you back the years we lost. I cannot undo the pain you have been through, but I can promise you this. For whatever time I have left on this earth, you will never be alone again. You will never be thrown away. You will never have to wonder if someone loves you." She was crying now too, silent tears that traced tracks down her cheeks. "I was so scared," she whispered. "Standing on that road, I thought I was going to die out there. I thought nobody would ever find me." I pulled her into a hug, holding her the way I should have held her 17 years ago. "But I did find you." My voice was thick with emotion. "Or maybe you found me. Either way, we are going to be okay, both of us." She nodded against my chest, and I felt something settle into place. Something that had been broken for 43 years, finally starting to heal. The desert stretched out before us, vast and unforgiving and beautiful. The same desert that had almost taken my daughter from me before I even knew she existed. The same desert that had brought her back. Life is strange that way. It takes and takes and takes, and then, when you least expect it, it gives you exactly what you need. I had been given a second chance. A daughter. A reason to keep going, and I was not going to waste it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.